Hey everyone, this is a clip from a recent episode of Another Pass, where we talk about movies and all the struggles that go into making them. If you like it, check out the whole podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts. So we've got a good lineup. We've got Bruce Willis, we've got Marlon Brando, we've got James Woods. Bruce Willis is in the process of getting a divorce from Demi Moore and drops out because of the personal issues that are going on with the movie. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, we no longer have our lead. And they're trying to find a person who can replace him, and this is right after Batman Forever, and they happen to stumble onto Val Kilmer, who it's like, yeah, no, that's a fair enough trade from a concept level of like, yeah, all right, Val Kilmer, like swapping in for Bruce Willis, sure, all right, and he wants to work with Brando, sure, okay, cool, let's make that all work. Val Kilmer, apparently also getting divorced at this time, but also just kind of a prick, negotiates down to, from his still getting paid the same amount to having to shoot 40% less than what he had initially signed on for.
To be fair, he did learn that he was getting divorced by turning on his TV.
That is also true.
Might have umped the jerk factor there.
I mean, yes. Although you could argue that the jerk factor, yes.
Yeah, you could argue both ways, but go on.
Well, if I may cut in here, I mean, have you both watched the Val documentary?
No.
And are you familiar with it?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. So throughout his entire life, he's been filming everything. And so he like always has a camera with him. And so there's this documentary on Amazon called Val, and they went through and they edited like all the footage. So there's all this crazy behind the scenes of Top Gun and Batman and Island of Dr. Moreau and stuff. But it's funny because, you know, I mean, his son narrates it because of his voice issues and whatnot, right. But he writes all the stuff, and so the narration is basically him. And hearing his point of view on what happened was very interesting compared to what maybe is the reality of the situation, because he's presenting it like, I was so excited to work on this movie with Marlon Brando, and then John Frankenheimer wouldn't allow Marlon Brando to be the genius he's supposed to, and so it was a really devastating experience. But then you're saying, which is true, of course, that right from the get-go, he's like, can I work 40% less time and like not be there as much as possible? So I think he's looking at the past with a little rose-colored glasses.
Right, because as you just said, it was John Frankenheimer that he's complaining about, who at the time was not slated to be the director. It was Richard Stanley who wrote the screenplay, who was slated to be the director. So Kilmer's already like playing diva on this whole thing. And then we haven't even got to set yet. He negotiates down 40%, and as a result, they're locked into him being in the movie. They're locked into him being on the poster, but they can't use him for nearly enough of enough film time to actually have him be the lead, which is again the part he signed up for. So they then have to they have to move him to the part of Montgomery, which actually pushes out James Woods.
Oh, so he was gonna play the Thulis part.
The Thulis part,
yeah. Be Douglas.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Okay.
Right. So he gets pushed over to the Montgomery role, which is kind of a bit part. It's Val Kilmer, so he's memorable in that, and he's on the poster, and he's in all the trailers because he's Val Kilmer. But like, it's sort of the henchman role in this one, or like it's kind of like Nedry in Jurassic Park, which, you know, like, Sam, thank you for bringing that one up, because that's like a modern like what hath science wrought kind of property that is directly descended from the Island of Dr. Moreau. So we move him over to this sort of the dragon character for Moreau, and then all of a sudden we have a big gaping hole where the lead's supposed to be. So initially it was going to be Rob Morrow, who got to set, and they got in the first 3 days of filming, and he cried he called the producers crying, and asking to be taken off the shoot and and out of his contract because it was going so poorly. Like, already 3 days in, he complains about, and this is kind of the thing, again, it's all of a sudden a big budget movie. Like, this is 1996, so like a $40 million budget's actually pretty big. Working on this movie with, you know, lots of special effects, lots of pyrotechnics, lots of stuff going on. when you're on a small indie movie, you can be like, all right, no, you run over this way. We're gonna get a couple angles. We'll cut it together to look like something good. And in this case, he was terrified of getting hurt because like there's explosions going on. I'm actually surprised to not see more stuff about injuries on set. Because like it sounds like it was a complete clusterfuck those couple days that Richard Stanley was there, and some of that is him being a novice, but some of that is just like coming at it with not a strong enough crew to really kind of to guide the whole thing. Because when you're dealing with something that is that big, you need to have a lot of people who can take charge of the very particular departments that they're in. Anyway, so Moreau leaves the shoot. At around this time is when Richard Stanley gets fired. Production has to halt completely. They have to get a new lead. They have to get a new director. And everyone who is there in Australia filming is just waiting. Fortunately, the special effects team is actually still going. Like they're developing more and more characters because they were already under time constraints anyway. Because there's a lot of like really elaborate stuff that they're trying to build. Which is why when people talk about this movie in a positive light, they are exclusively talking about the Sam Winston special effects. Because there's a lot of really cool like puppetry going on, a lot of really cool makeup going on, lots of really cool stuff. Anyway, eventually they get John Frankenheimer to come on, and I forget the name of his AD that he works with all the time, but his AD is on the documentary because Frankenheimer passed away by the time they made the documentary, and he is fucking hilarious. He has no time for anyone's bullshit. Like they're able to like somewhat wrangle everyone because they have to get this movie made. Remember, if you like that clip, check out the podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.